I don't like these movies.
Get real.
Dude, I saw that movie 20 goddamn times!
Just consume product. I watch my movies.
Having so much fun! And really?
Oh, this movie's too complicated.
So once again, no smoking in this theater.
This pot is making you aggressive.
Hello and welcome back to Idle Film Club, your brain rock girlfriend's favourite film podcast. I am Callum.
And I'm Gio.
And we are back after Christmas.
Hell yeah. We're recovering from being ill, can you tell?
Yeah, we both have had colds. It is the new year. We are recording on January 3rd, 2026. Happy New Year to our listeners.
Happy New Year.
We were going to originally do this episode over Christmas, but the research got a bit much.
Yeah.
And also we were running out of time, and also we were ill. And that's the excuses out the way. But we have a good episode in store, don't we?
We do. We are
covering Stanley Kubrick's final movie, 1999, Eyes Wide Shut.
Hell yeah.
A Christmas movie of sorts.
Yeah, so we thought we'd tie it into the Christmas season. We were hoping to get it in before Christmas, but it's a festive movie generally. It's not. There's got a lot of Christmas themes and motifs, but this will carry you nicely into our new year. New year, new Idle Film Club.
New year, new us.
New us, big
Unfortunately,
time.
we're starting with grief and illness.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
What are you meant to do? We fuck it.
Pour one out to my Nana.
Yeah, this one's for
This
Nana.
one's for Nana, the crazed sex pervert Hollywood elite cult movie.
Yeah.
Love you, Nana.
Yeah, shout out. So yeah, we were originally going to do this as a Christmas episode, and then I was going to go look behind the scenes and stuff, and you were going to get the themes together. That was the initial plan.
I mean, we have done all of those things. It was a behemoth. This movie is humongous.
It is huge.
And we haven't even really scratched the surface.
No. So I get into production a bit this episode, and a little bit on post-production and things like that.
Yeah.
But there's a whole rabbit
Did
hole
you
out
know
there. Did I know what?
that this is the longest shoot ever made?
Hell yeah.
So I've tackled more of the theme side, you've tackled more of the production side. So we were trying to think about ways to interweave them, but honestly it just gets, like the film, too complicated if you try and shove too many different things in such a small time frame. So we've decided to long out the production and just separate them into two parts.
Hell yeah.
If we don't speed this along, we're going to be filming for the next 4 years of our lives. So do you want to get straight into it?
Yes, so Eyes Wide Shut. You'd seen it before. Did I show this to you?
I honestly can't tell you. I don't think I ever watched it on my own.
I watched it with you a couple years ago, right?
Yeah, and I liked it well enough.
Yeah.
But Baby Girl has really sort of renewed our interest in Nicole Kidman, and so we've sort of gone back and been watching. We've watched some great To Die For, that's great. Stepford Wives was great. I know people don't like that movie, but I thought it was wonderful. And again, it's nice to go back and revisit people and see what they've done. And this is obviously, you famously quoted on the podcast that we have to pretend that their acting is good just because it's in a Kubrick movie, but I think our opinions are both.
Yeah, I've changed my mind after copious research and copium of being a Kubrick stan, and I'm like, oh no, he's right.
Yeah, for sure.
He was right all along. Anyway, so I love Eyes Wide Shut. It's one of my favourites.
Yeah.
I've seen it a handful of times. The first time I saw it, I remember being shit scared.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those movies that the more you watch it and the more you learn. So we basically, prior to this, sort of rewatched quite a lot of Kubrick movies. We also rewatched Room 237.
Yeah.
And with all Kubrick movies, I think a lot of that documentary is just people seeing what they want to see and running with it.
Yeah.
And I feel like every Kubrick movie you can kind of do that with.
For sure.
This one, going into it, I was like, oh, it's all about pedogate. It's all about like the Hollywood elite. And it is, but it's also not as much about that, I think, as people think that it is.
Because that's originally what got me interested in Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah,
people
for sure.
Because you're like, oh my god, it's an expose on pedo word. And you're like, yeah. Also, off the bat on this podcast, we're not really going to get into conspiracies. So if you've tuned in to hear our take on how Kubrick was killed by the Mossad for exposing fucking I don't know, Lex Wessner. Like, no.
That was my original plan. And then
Yes.
as I started sort of looking into it more, I was like,
It's
this
boring
is...
and kind of fake.
Yeah, and a lot... Obviously, Kubrick did pass very shortly after this. I put that more down to...
Yeah.
a 70-year-old man
We
who
will
lived a
get
long
into that.
yeah.
But
So
yeah, for
again,
sure.
it's one of those things that I think, like all Kubrick movies, the conspiracy is part of the legacy, and that is absolutely valid. And don't get me wrong, there is some interesting connections and definitely some subliminal messaging,
for sure,
like all Kubrick movies.
There's always subliminal messaging. There's always double meaning. There's always
Yeah, so I will say that
inferences and puzzles and clues that may not necessarily lead anywhere.
No, and
They just raise questions.
it's one of those things that the more you look into it and the more you watch it, and having gone back and watched it after researching, there was things that I picked up on, and there were themes that I didn't get the first time, and there were things that actually I was like, no, I having rewatched that with the information, I don't see that, or I do see that. So it's definitely something that I think the more you watch it and the more you decide what you think the movie is about, you'll see more of it as you look into it, kind of vibe. So I think it's not just one of those movies that you watch once and you're like, yep, these are the themes and these are absolutely, and a lot of Room 237 is going, well, Kubrick thought this. You don't know Kubrick, nor have you ever met Kubrick.
Yeah, my interest is World War II, and funnily enough, The Shining's about World War II. My interest is in Native American genocide. And did you know the
movie is about Native American genocide?
It's also about the Holocaust.
And as we were driving up out of the car park, I was sitting in the back left seat. I was thinking, what was that? What was that? What was it? What was it? What was it? And I think my visual imagination looked at the Calumet baking powder can, the one right behind Halloran's head when he's talking to Danny. I knew what Calumet meant. It meant peace pipe. And I thought to myself, peace pipe, Indians. Oh my goodness, they're all over the place in that movie.
Anyway, Eyes Wide Shut, final movie of Stanley Kubrick, possibly his most divisive of his career.
I think so. To me, it is his magnum opus.
For sure.
And it killed him.
Yes. So let's get into the nuts and bolts of the movie itself. I'm just going to give a quick plot recap. If you haven't seen Eyes Wide Shut, definitely go watch it. We're going to spoil it and tear it apart.
Yeah.
And sort of take the magic away a bit. But if you haven't seen it, definitely watch it. And don't listen to this podcast because you'll get nothing out of it.
Watch it and then come back and listen to us.
Exactly, yeah.
A marvel in our intelligence.
I have seen one or two things in my life, but never anything like this.
So, infamously starring Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman in the height of their marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Cruise plays Dr. William Bill Hartford.
And he is loosely based on Harrison Ford. They said they wanted a quote-unquote Harrison Ford goy, so they took Ford and made Bill Hartford. But I think Harrison Ford is Jewish on his mother's side, so I think they wanted someone that was but there's apparently, according to some of the research I did, quite a theme of Kubrick sort of dampening down Jewishness in characters, but giving the context of this movie.
Yeah, for a man born in, 29?
Yeah. Anyway, that's a can of worms, but I thought that was an interesting anecdote.
Yes, definitely. So, the plot, let's just I'm going to really loosely walk through.
I was going to say that
we're not going to get into.
There's a lot, but also nothing.
Yes. So, following a Christmas party hosted by a patient of Dr. Bill, which was Victor Ziegler, played by Sidney Pollack, we'll get into that. Dr. Bill Hartford and his wife Alice get stoned and have a lover's quarrel after the party that leads to Alice admitting to infidelity in her mind and explaining Bill's lack of awareness of female sexuality.
It's just relax, Alice. This pot is making you aggressive.
So she talks about when they were away at Cape Cod and there was a young naval officer there for a day alongside her, Bill and her child, and basically just admitted to, if he was open to it, she would have thrown everything away for a night with them.
Baby Girl is a spiritual sequel to this, I think, genuinely. That's not a joke. You can quote me on that.
So, obviously, Bill being a man and being 5'3", is scorned.
He's 5'11", actually.
He's scorned, jealous,
And decides to ruin his life.
and has to leave
Or does he?
the argument because another patient of his phones, and her father, who is Bill's patient, has died. So he has to go out there. He goes there. He leaves pretty quickly. And then just sets out onto the night of New York, not wanting to go home. He visits a sex worker's apartment.
Sex work.
He visits a jazz club where his old
Nick Nightingale.
Nick Nightingale. Todd Field is the actor who plays Nick Nightingale, and he has a lot to say about Eyes Wide Shut. Most
Does
of the
he?
fucking quotes come from him.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Toll booth.
Yeah. Where else he go? Goes to a costume shop because he finds out from Nick Nightingale about these mysterious parties.
Mr. Milich.
Mr. Milich's costume shop, Rainbow.
Rainbow
But also
fashions.
ends up doubling as an underage brothel for his Milich's daughter. And then he heads to a mansion where the main set piece of the movie happens. And there is a weird masked ball, sex party, orgy vibes
Yeah.
with the horny elite. He basically gets kicked out of there for being not part of
imposter.
it, an imposter.
He doesn't do a particularly good job.
No,
at-
he's really not good at hiding the fact he's an imposter.
Yeah.
All from rocking up in a taxi to not wearing his mask at the door to just being like, oh, I guess, can I come in? That sort of vibe.
Yeah, like everyone, like all of the cars
Y'all
parked
don't mind?
outside are like stretch limos, and he turns up in like a yellow cab.
Yeah, and just rocks up and he's like,
And
I'll
he's
give you
got
the password,
receipts in his
motherfucker.
pockets.
Yeah.
Idiot.
He gets caught out basically, and a lady who he saved earlier, Mandy, at the Christmas party at the start, he saves her from ODing, and she basically sacrifices herself for him to escape. He escapes, and then basically goes back through the night
Trying to piece together.
Yeah, piece together what happened, and mysteries unfold.
Disastrous consequences.
And he pays. Does he pay for it? Probably. That's up
Everyone
to
else
you,
does.
the viewer.
He doesn't.
Oh yeah. So that's the basic plot. It's basically split right down the middle with the orgy, the famous orgy set piece as the sort of.
Yeah, so it's 70-20-70. Symmetry is a big duality, and mirrors are a big theme of this movie, which we'll come back to. But yeah, 70-20-70 is the split. So 70 minutes either side, and every time you finish the orgy scene, you think,
How is there 70 minutes? Doesn't he just have to go to Hamley's?
yeah, but it's honestly the second half is still very, very enjoyable.
Oh, it's great.
So where do we start?
How'd you like to have a little fun?
I'm sorry.
Have a little fun? I just live right down there. Would you like to come inside with me?
So, I'd like to shout out this book where it basically got everything from.
Yeah, I was
going to
say,
podcast.
none of this information is new.
No,
or
I'm just regurgitating it and making it funny.
But, like,
kind of.
criticism of anything this well known or famous or well studied. It's not like we're presenting new information. We're
No.
just learning and presenting it in our own.
For sure. So this book, Eyes Wide Shut, Stanley Kubrick, and the making of his final film by Robert P. Kolker and Nathan Abrams is where I got most of my info from.
Sick.
And at the start, it handily provides a little timeline of the pre-production, because I didn't massively go into the pre-production. I went into the actual shooting and the editing. Should we talk Traum Nouvelle?
Yeah, why not?
So Traum Nouvelle, where did Stanley first hear about Traum Nouvelle, the book that Eyes Wide Shut is based on?
Yeah.
There's theories that in the 40s, he reads it. This is by Arthur Schnitzler.
Yeah.
Schnitzler? Mein Deutsche ist split. This is so Kubrickian analysis, this book. It's hilarious. So the timeline, 1928, Stanley Kubrick is born. 28, bloody hell.
That's
40s.
madness.
Does Kubrick read Schnitzler via his father's library or at Columbia University? 1950, Kubrick is possibly introduced to Schnitzler via Max Orphal's La Ronde. Do you know what that means?
No.
Okay, cool. 1952, Kubrick enters a relationship with Ruth Sobotka. Did she introduce him to Traum Nouvelle?
Who knows?
1956, Kubrick and his producing partner James B. Harris working on adapting Zweig's 1913 novella Burning Secret with writer Calder Willingham.
Sorry?
Willingham. 1959, Kirk Douglas claims his psychiatrist introduced Kubrick to
Oh my god, who
Traum
cares?
Nouvelle while working on Spartacus. And in May of 1959, Kubrick invites Schnitzler's grandson Peter to the set of Spartacus. 1968, Kubrick allegedly reads Traum Nouvelle for the first time.
This is an average book about Kubrick.
May 22, 1968, Kubrick asked Jay Cox to secure the rights to the novella. 1970, Kubrick begins to concentrate on adapting Trome novelle. So 1970, right? 29 years before the release of Eyes Wide Shut, he's locking in. He's like, yeah, we're locking into Trome novelle. He acquires the rights in April 1970, and Jan Harlan makes a rough translation of the German text. Kubrick buys up every existing copy of the published novel.
Normal. 1971,
in May, Warner Brothers announced Kubrick's next project as Rhapsody, an adaptation of Trome novelle. So Warner Brothers are announcing this in 71.
That's mad.
LA Herald Examiner reports that Kubrick will write, produce and direct Trome novelle in England for Warner Brothers release. And in June of 71, Kubrick tells John Hofstede that his next film would be about Napoleon, followed by an adaptation of Arthur Hitler's A Dream novel. And then in December of 71, Kubrick is already considering transposing Vienna to New York from the book. So as early as 71, Kubrick is locked into making an adaptation of Trome novelle set in New York.
It's crazy how much New York must have changed between...
Yeah, we'll get into that as well. In 73, Jan Harlan gets an extension for the motion picture rights to the novella, $1,500. Ka-ching. Kubrick considers filming Trome novelle in black and white as a low-budget art house film set in Dublin with Woody Allen playing a middle-aged Jewish doctor.
So I know that they had quite a lot of different ideas. It was going to be like a sex comedy, right?
Yeah.
Or not going to be, but it was at some points was considered. And I saw in my research he definitely wanted like a married couple. So he was thinking about like Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger, or like Bruce Willis and Demi Moore, and... Yeah, sex comedy is pretty far from what we ended up with.
It is. In 76, he writes to Anthony Burgess, the writer of Clockwork Orange, with a view to ask him to adapt the novella.
Yeah.
And then in 1980, apparently, again, fucking citation needed for all of this.
Yeah.
Kubrick considers Steve Martin for the lead role. He also discusses Trome novelle with Diane Johnson and Michael Herr. In 83, Terry Southern works on the script. 87, Kubrick discusses the novella with John le Carre. Again, like...
Genuinely, even reading this, I've already committed too much time into reading the timeline of Stanley Kubrick's relationship with this novel.
Yes.
This has been living rent-free in his brain for almost 25 years at this point.
In 93, Sidney Pollack suggests Kubrick seriously considered Tom Cruise for Eyes Wide Shut. Because they worked together on a film, I can't remember which one, a film that Pollack directed with Cruise.
Oh, nice.
So that is the lead-up, basically, to Trome novelle. And in spring 94, this is where Kubrick approaches Frederick Raphael for the screenplay. Play, and this is where...
The final form.
This is it, yeah. I mean, it won't be finalised until another 3 years.
Right.
But yeah, so that he delivers the first draft of the script in December 1994.
There you go. A first draft. Official first draft. Of course, there's a lot of cheating in there. A lot of
And this is where shit starts to really get going.
Yeah.
So Frederick Raphael is delivering scripts to Kubrick back and forth. They're going back and forth for the early 1994. In July, Kubrick approaches Sarah Maitland, who is a fantasy English author who is sort of a staple of magical realism as a concept. So you can already get senses
the vibes.
that because it's a dream novel, isn't it? So
Yes, yeah.
on the 17th of December 95, Cruise and Kidman are announced by Warner Brothers. Can you imagine that? You haven't seen a Kubrick film since, 87, Full Metal Jacket?
I think so.
So basically 10 years, a decade later, they're like, the two biggest movie stars in the world are going to be starring in the Stanley Kubrick film. Basically, 4 years later, at the start of November 96, that's where the production kicks off. This is where we're shooting. The first thing they shoot is Ziegler's House Party, which they have a shooting quite famously with Harvey Keitel.
Yes.
Playing Ziegler. Do you think that could have worked?
It's hard to... It's one of those things that you can always be like, oh, no, it wouldn't work because you've not seen it. You know what I mean? But equally, I'm a massive Harvey Keitel fan. You can go back and listen to our Bad Lieutenant episode. I think he's a wonderful actor. But I think you need Sidney Pollack, I'll say that. He seems to fit the vibe better.
What was the problem with Kubrick and Eyes Wide Shut?
Well, he was a genius. Yeah. Mr. Kubrick did some things I objected to. I didn't like. I thought they were disrespectful, and I won't be disrespected by him or anybody. And if any actor can help it, they should help it.
Yeah.
You don't want to get fired.
No.
But I was.
Is that the Brooklyn in you, do you think?
it's a sense of worth in me.
Yeah, so they're shooting with Stacey Ness playing Mandy as well, who's the overdose girl at the Ziegler party. So between the 4th and the 16th of November, they're shooting at Luton Hoo Mansion in Chidwickbury, which is where Kubrick basically
like
lives.
when Americans are like
Childwickbury, I think.
It's definitely not pronounced like that. I bet it's like
Chidwickbury.
I don't fucking know.
So yeah, between the 4th and the 16th, they're shooting. Harvey Keitel's having an awful time. Is not getting along with Kubrick. So yeah, the first 12 days of shooting, so nearly 2 weeks of shooting. On the 18th of November, it gets abandoned.
Yeah, so Reservoir Dogs, Bad Lieutenant are both 92, just the same as Eyes Wide Shut and Magnolia were both 99.
Oh damn. Speaking of Magnolia,
yes.
Did you know Paul Thomas Anderson visited the set?
I did, because I saw it in your notes.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
He was also in a movie in 1994 called Monkey Trouble. Now, from the poster, this looks like a situational comedy. He's cute, he's cuddly, he's a klepto.
Oh.
This is what the poster looks like.
An urban style ape caper.
So, if someone could explain to me how Harvey Keitel...
He went from this to being bullied by Stanley Kubrick for 12 days straight.
And then got fed up and then left.
Yeah, pretty much.
Ava always wanted a pet.
Emma, that's enough. I said no.
But she never dreamed of what was headed her way.
Look at that little monkey.
Stacey Ness, who plays Mandy, basically came in to do the overdose scene and went, "Oh, you want me to be naked?" No. No, I'm not doing that, actually, and left. And by that point, Keitel's just like, fuck this.
Yeah,
I think he gets sent home on the 16th, and by the 18th, he's like, no. And also they want him to, they postpone the shoot, because Kubrick's like, I've got fuck tons to do. And they want Keitel to basically be on standby for months. And Harvey Keitel's like, I'm not doing that.
He's got monkey trouble.
I've got monkey trouble to try and shoot. But 2 days later, by the 20th, Sidney Pollack is in. And they are resume shooting.
Okay, sick.
So within 2 days, they're back to shooting.
Yeah.
They're shooting at the Lanesborough Hotel in Hyde Park with Jennifer Jason Leigh playing Marion.
Yes, I remember that.
Who is
Marion Nathanson. She's the widow, the child widow.
Yeah, they interrupt the pot argument for
yeah.
trying to get into the Lanesborough Hotel in Hyde Park. On the 20th, Kubrick is dressed so poorly that the staff won't let him into the hotel to shoot his own movie.
Oh my god! Have you seen that picture of him on set and he's just wearing like the same jacket?
Yeah, he wears the same fucking thing. Yeah, but they won't let him into this fancy hotel. I think he's just like a vagrant.
Do you reckon they would have let in Nick Refn in his little blankie he has wrapped around his face?
The power blanket is the source of all energy, and it absorbs all my creative anxieties and turns them into pure muscle strength.
So, and then in December, they shoot the Nick Nightingale scenes in, what's the Club Sonata?
Oh, yeah.
Which is played...
Cafe Sonata,
which is played by Madame Jojo in Soho. One of the actual real sets. One of few real sets that was shot for Eyes Wide Shut on location. Yeah. This was one of them.
Check out that video on YouTube.
Lisa Leone, the second unit director.
Check that out.
It's a
incredible.
Criterion extra from the new Blu-ray, which we couldn't get hold of.
Don't. Well, this is sort of what kicked off our interest, was that we wanted to do a Christmas film, and there's been hubbub in the Blu-ray film collecting community over whether the Blu-ray version or the newly released Criterion version is the superior one. And honestly, they look different, yes, and they both have their merits. But I love it's tearing the community apart.
I will include a link in the notes to a side-by-side comparison. We'll get into it a bit more later, I think, but it's very interesting.
It is interesting.
Restoration of Eyes Wide Shut.
It's jobless.
Yeah.
It's jobless behaviour,
absolutely.
but it's just super interesting.
Yeah, speaking of which, Lisa Leone gets sent to New York because Kubrick doesn't fly. He didn't fly because he couldn't go to America because he knew the Illuminati were after him. Or he was just a weird autistic freak.
He did fly, though. People were like, he never flew. And it's like, he did fly.
Yeah. But I think long haul to New York, my man wasn't going to do.
Respect. I hate flying.
So Domino, who's the sex worker that Bill runs into and goes to her apartment, that whole apartment is a friend of Lisa Leone's who was moving out of New York and basically got the entire apartment shipped to the studio.
It looks incredible.
It looks really good. So they shoot that in December 96. 9th to the 22nd of December, they shoot the Domino apartment scenes. And then Kubrick, because he's such a nice guy, gives people Christmas off.
It's a poor excuse for picking a man's pocket every December the 25th.
But
as I seem to be the only person around who knows that.
Good for him.
So Christmas 96 rather, and New Year 97, people are like, it's going well. Yeah, basically 2 months into shooting, they're all like, yeah, let's go. Shooting resumes on the 21st of January. They shoot the Rainbow Fashions scenes.
Yeah.
This is just a disaster, basically. This is where shit starts to get really bad, and this is where you're like, oh, this is going to be a troubled production.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise has, like, gastronitis. The guy who plays Millich gets a nosebleed, and he cuts himself on, like, a coat hanger. And he gets, like, viral laryngitis, and he's fucked. And, at the start of 1997, it's just a fucking disaster. Like, Cruise keeps getting, like, stomach aches, like, chronic stomach aches where he can't work. In March, Kidman's off a bunch with respiratory infections.
She also had an ovarian cyst, I think.
Oh yeah, I did read that. But she kept getting ill. Both her and Tom just kept getting ill. And then May 97, this is, by the sounds of it, the only month in production where they got shit done, basically.
Nice.
So they shoot Alice's dream sequence, Bill and Alice's daily life, which is at the start of the movie, the pot confessional scene. And yeah, they're working crazy days shooting, the whole crew. The way Kubrick works is the morning's set up for light testing.
Right.
And he sort of checks the like aperture on every lens to see what's best.
Mm.
And then they film practice, because the way Kubrick works as well, you were saying this while we were watching it earlier about what Pollack was saying. Basically, Warner Brothers had full trust in Kubrick because he was shooting basically at home on the Warner Brothers sound lot. They weren't paying permits. He was just like, no, fuck it. I've got reels and reels of film. He shoots all the rehearsals.
Well, another
reason all the
tests that they filmed in like Pinewood is because it was so cheap, right?
Yeah, for sure. Much cheaper than trying to do Kubrickisms and shooting in New York when you've got like a week.
You do look at the set though and you think, wow, that is so quaint compared to like...
Oh, for sure. And we run into problems with that fucking New York set quite early on.
I'm not surprised.
In June 97, the OD scene is reshot with Sidney Pollack and Julianne Davis, who's the woman who plays Mandy.
Okay.
They have doctors on set to instruct her on how people correctly OD and things like that, and how you behave when you OD.
I did think weirdly, unnervingly seems like what would, how someone would react if they'd done a fucking speedball. Also, when you watch that scene, note how long he says she's been ODing for and note how long he does his trousers up.
Yeah, Bill comes in and he's already doing his trousers up and he's like,
she's been like this for 5 or 6 minutes. It's like, okay, and you've just done your trousers up.
Yes.
Okay.
August 97, intimate Alice scenes are shot, which is just basically Kubrick and Kidman.
Yes, and I read about this a lot and I thought this was really interesting and really cool to hear her perspective on things.
She fucking loves Kubrick.
Yes.
Years of our life were at Pinewood or in the trailer, but it wasn't like I was wishing to be anywhere else. You would get exhausted, you were calm, he would rediscover things, he would change, and that was incredibly influential on me. I knew somehow that this was going to be the pivotal moment in my life.
Again, she is an actor's
a director's actor. Yes.
Like, she will, and I get this impression of, I haven't seen all of her movies, but I've seen a good amount of her movies, and she definitely seems like the kind of actor that respects directors.
So only one of these scenes shot in August 97 makes the cut, which is the very opening shot of the movie, which is her taking off the dress in front of the mirror.
I love that scene.
They spent days, her and Kubrick, getting shots. There's like a list. Let me see if I can... No one's ever seen them, but like the production notes.
Yeah.
So these are the erotic glimpses, is what the shots were called.
Okay.
Of Alice, which was a static dolly shot from Alice's legs as she picks up a bra, naked as she puts on bra. Alice seated naked at table, speaking on telephone. Alice sitting naked on bed reading newspaper. Alice's naked legs and bottom as Paul's are on jeans. Alice topless as button jeans. Alice naked in bathroom, turns from shower to shelf, stands up on tiptoe, then X's to sink. Alice lying naked on bed reading book and looks to cam, pokes tongue out, turns page of books and mouths I love you. Alice naked, seated on the edge of the bed and hands hanging down. Alice wearing pants only, seated on low painting toenails. Alice in front of mirror takes off and steps out of dress, bends / picks up dress, glancing in mirror and puts dress in closet, which is the only one that ended up in the movie.
Wow.
So there was loads of stuff shot.
Didn't they have like, I can't remember the exact
They had over 1 million feet of film to edit.
Yeah, which is like...
absurd.
Isn't it like 4 times the amount of a normal film production or something?
They also shoot in August 94 Bill's attack scene where he gets called an F slur by a bunch of kids.
Kubrick was like, I'm putting that in the movie.
Yeah.
Tom was like, I beg of you, don't do it. But this was also a tabloid thing. Like, the media are obsessed with Tom Cruise being gay, which he probably is.
Mr. Cruise, if you're listening, I don't think you're gay.
I think you're 6 foot tall and straight.
I think you are not a suppressive person. I think you have lots of thetans that
This
have been
part is making you
eradicated.
homosexual.
Every scene, Stanley would say, look, we gotta earn every scene with this character, every single moment with this character. And he knew that, in times when I just get frustrated with myself.
The end of August 97, Liz Ziegler, who is no relation to the Ziegler in this movie, she's the Steadicam operator.
Right.
And she quits to spend time with her family. She's basically this is like a year into production.
Yeah.
She's like, I've been away from my family for a year.
Yeah.
You can't keep doing this. Peter Cavacucci replaces this woman.
Do you want to say that with less of a racist accent?
Peter Cavacucci. I can't. This is not racism. This is my poor handwriting. This guy called Peter steps in.
Okay.
Lisa Leone's basically like, 90% of the film's done. We've got 90% done. Also, 90% of the film is shot on Steadicam, so you're going to have a few pickup shots. That's it. It's a 6-week agreement, which turns into 8 months.
Yeah.
Because there's 8 months now left on shooting. September 97, the following month, the hospital scenes are shot at Chelsea and Westminster in London.
So does that include the morgue and...
No.
So is this just where Bill works? Or
Yes,
is
this is Bill's
right.
working, and that pickup shot of Bill with his assistant the morning after.
Yeah, where he's talking about cancelling appointments.
Those shots, and these apparently were done in basically 30 minutes.
Oh, are these the ones where he's doing all of the...
He's doing the the chest.
Got you.
The kid, because there's the lady with the... God. There's the lady with the fantastic boobies.
Yeah, I'm sure that's the one you remember.
And then there's the little kid.
And there's loads of eye things in the background.
The
Did
little
you
kid is
that?
Kubrick's grandson.
Aww.
And his mother is Kubrick's
Oh, I didn't
daughter.
know this, yeah.
Yeah, within 30 minutes of arriving at Chelsea and Westminster, the streets were lined with crowds of Tom Cruise stands chanting, I love you, Tom. And Kubrick apparently saw it from his car and was like harrowingly like terrified, and he just hated it, and he was like, fucking, what is this?
Yeah.
Again, you notice a lot of this is Stanley Kubrick boomerisms.
Sorry, you conscribed the biggest movie star to be in your movie.
September 97 is also the stalking scene, which is also one of the other, I think it was one of 2 exterior New York shots that were actually shot not in Pinewood. This was shot in London, in Hatton Garden, and it's a very similar area to New York apparently because there's a lot of Jewish immigration there.
Okay.
So a lot of like diamond shops and things like that.
Yeah.
Please, come forward.
Between June and August 97 is the prep for the orgy scene. So Kubrick hires a choreographer, very modern dance basically. Extras hired, according to the catering reports, it's an estimated between like 100 and 125 extras were on set at any given time. And then starting from 24th of September to the 1st of November 97 is an 8-week shoot, which is the orgy scene.
Okay.
So this is, I think, what Kubrick, by the sound of it, people were like, Kubrick was dreading it. He basically was like, I don't know how we're going to execute this.
Yeah.
By the sounds of it. There's like 4 locations. Somerton in Long Island for the exteriors, which you can see the sign saying Somerton as he pulls in.
I was going to say they refer, I don't know if they name it, but it is
but the
known
sign
as
is,
the Somerton. Yeah.
And that is built for the Rothschilds. Ooh,
Yes.
little inside thing.
Again,
what fucking mansion is built for not evil billionaires?
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean? Like, okay. People are going to think I'm an op. The
Friend
28th, they
Mohammed
arrive in Thetford. Shout out
Big
Norfolk.
up.
Eldon Hall. And that's for the red cloak scene. Played by Leon Vitali. What is his actual role? He's just Kubrick's guy.
Mate.
I don't even know his actual name.
Is he in other?
He's worked with Kubrick for years. I think he worked on Barry Lyndon, Full Metal Jacket, and this. The shoots last between 5 and 2 a.m. That's when they're shot. A 70-year-old man doing this. Why? He wasn't getting home till 4 in the morning.
He was killed by the Illuminati, babe.
Highclere Castle, do you know what, for the orgy room, where Bill's walking around and people are fucking,
Yeah,
the infamous scenes that get obscured in the US cut. That's shot at Highclere Castle, which is Downton Abbey.
Ah.
And then the corridor where Mandy leads from one scene to another leads Tom Cruise. That's just a set on Pinewood that they built.
Not a lot of black people in this movie, I'm just now realising.
Is there one?
No. I was just thinking about Roger John Page. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Who?
Roger John Page, the guy from Bridgerton.
Oh.
I got distracted, sorry.
The 3rd of October...
There's no Dick Halloran, that's for sure.
He's no Dick Halloran.
Well, anyway, he looks like a doc, doesn't he?
Yeah. What's up, Doc?
3rd of October, so mid-orgy scene. The Steadicam breaks. A rigger falls off the truck. The model's knees are all giving way. Like, 2 of them end up in hospital because they're just... Between rehearsals of them kneeling down and...
I can't even imagine how painful that must have
between
been.
5 and 2 a.m. basically just being on your knees.
Awful.
Naked. They were having to hide, like...
fans
and stuff because it was freezing.
I'm not surprised.
Abigail Good, she gets replaced and people are like, the actress has different pubic hair. Anyway... an extra falls down some stairs and gets taken to the hospital.
Christ.
So basically it's a bit of a fuck up. But they're getting it done. Kubrick's like obsessed with the way the smoke from the red cloak is carrying.
Oh, yeah.
He wants to basically choreograph the smoke. And people are like, how can you do that? And so there's so many
That's when you use CGI, bro.
Hell no. November to December, another 2 successful months. Loads of scene shots, including Bill buying the newspaper.
Loads of scene shot. Bill buying a newspaper, the least important part of the movie. Well, that is quite important, I suppose.
Between December 2nd and 3rd, so only 2 days, Gary Gober, I know his name, that's the naval officer. They shoot that, and they shoot the Hamley scene with 100 plus extras, including Hamley's staff. So that's Christmas, break for Christmas again.
Yeah.
January 1998, you're just like, when the fuck is this going to end? They do another orgy take of Kubrick walking around, and at this point, people think Kubrick was watching pornography to get a gist of the orgy scene and hire some porn stars, because there objectively were porn stars on set.
Yeah.
And people think that Kubrick was basically trying to get a bit less uptightness in
I got you. I know that he hired models to be the women in the orgy sequences and found that obviously they were models, but they weren't really used to filming like sex scenes and stuff. So that tracks, I think.
Yes, for
so
sure.
because he said like this is like the elite of the elite. They are going purely based on aesthetics and like.
And you were saying to me how a lot of the women in that scene sort of have Nicole Kidman's body type.
They were all modelled around having that, which I think adds a weird, creepy layer. Because when you hear about Alice like reciting one of her final cuck dreams that she has,
I was fucking other men. So many. I don't know how many I was with. And I knew you could see me in the arms of all these men, just fucking all these men.
So February 3rd, 1998, Kubrick announces the filming is complete.
Hey, finally.
March, the dead patient scenes are reshot.
Oh, sick.
1 month later, because we haven't got dinner for Jason Lee, who's working on Existence, which is that David Cronenberg film. Is that what it's called?
I don't know.
Replaced by Mary Richardson. May 15th to 31st, some more additional photography is shot, including Bill receiving the card outside.
Yes.
Which is shot at a transport research lab in Crowthorne, not notably Somerton.
Okay.
June 17th officially wraps. We're done. Eyes Wide Shut. September 10th, Warner Brothers announces its release for July 16th, 1999.
Crazy.
Grueling.
Yeah, that's pretty grueling.
I bet everyone was very relieved.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, 1 million foot film is what they had. So they complete filming on
the
June
budget
17th.
for that movie was $65 million, which I guess that is the 90s, but equally...
No, it's I've got the exact quote from Sidney Pollack here, which says that Stanley had figured a way to work in England for a fraction of the cost.
Yeah.
So, he's basically licensed... Like, he's got Tom Cruise on set for, 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, are you fucking serious?
Incredible.
So, June 17th, it wraps. They'd already started working on the first edit at the end of 1996. Nigel Galt is the editor, who quickly realises, because he's working 12-hour days, that he needs an assistant, so they hire Melanie Vina Queno, I hope I'm saying that right, who also starts working 12-hour days, and Klaus Veschlich, I don't know how to say his name, also working 12-hour days. So you've got 3 people around the clock, basically, working insane hours. It really kicks off in 99, obviously.
Yes.
After filming is complete. I've got his schedule here for February 18th, he's working 11 a.m. till 1 a.m. February 19th, he's working 9:30 a.m. till half midnight. The 23rd, they're working 10 a.m. till 3:30 a.m. And the 28th, they're working 1 p.m. till 6 a.m.
Oof.
So it's grueling.
Nothing like being awake through the night to actually do you in.
By March 2nd, 1999, Kubrick is happy with the edit. And he has a screening for Nicole Kidman, Tom Cruise, and 2 Warner Brothers co-chairs in America.
Yes.
It's shipped over. And the only thing that needs to change is like a couple of colour corrections and things like that.
Well, I mean, the colour corrections have this debate has been going on for the last fucking 25 years, so...
3 days... Oh, also, the projectionist is not allowed to watch the film. And there's like top secret. The film gets shipped back to Chidwick-Bury, Childwick-Bury.
Oh my God, that's part
like
of it.
Candlewicks. March 5th, there's another screening, and Kubrick apparently is just delighted with the film. John Cayley, who's a Warner Brothers production chief, says that Kubrick was so excited because Terry and Bob, who were the 2 execs, had seen the film and they loved it. Tom and Nicole had seen it and they loved it. I never heard him as excited about the film.
Wow.
Yeah, sad. And 2 days later, Kubrick dies.
Good evening, I'm Kevin Newman in for Carol Simpson, and we begin tonight with the passing of one of the century's most provocative filmmakers. Stanley Kubrick's movies were usually profound, often masterpieces, and challenging, if not a little puzzling at first. He died today at the age of 70 at his home in England.
March 7th, Kubrick dies in his sleep of a massive heart attack, and he's buried in his home on the 12th.
Oh.
From the vibe I get, there was such a wave of relief.
Yes.
From this film being shown.
Yeah.
And he was a 70-year-old man.
Yeah.
He was
a
not getting
lifetime of achievement. I can't remember who it was that was quoted as saying it, but this ties into the whole urban legend.
Yes, it's the
classic
Heath Ledger
UL.
thing.
Yeah, and he was like, Stanley was exhausted and mentally incredibly drained. Like, even if there was nothing, like, I can't even begin to imagine. I couldn't do what he was doing. A 70-year-old man who was working under that. Like, it is pressure. Like, I'm not saying anything else, but he really is the greatest living filmmaker.
So his living. That's another conspiracy.
Was.
His wife, Christiane, this is a quote from her about the end of Kubrick's life, basically. I thought he was awfully tired. He never slept much ever in his whole life. Then I thought he was really overdoing it with his last film.
Yeah.
Sleeping less and less. He was also a doctor's son, and he wouldn't see a doctor. He didn't trust anyone. He gave himself his own medicine if he
Not after making this, I'm not surprised.
He gave himself his own medicine if he wasn't feeling well, or he would phone friends. It was the one thing he did that I thought was really stupid.
Oh.
Because his dad was a doctor, and I don't know, I mean, I'm sure growing up with the Second World War really fucks you up.
Yeah.
In terms
As
of
a
trusting.
Jewish.
Yeah. But apparently, his whole life he never trusted doctors. He was very much his own self-medicator.
Well, I mean, he did 70 years, which is pretty
And he
good
was
going.
apparently an old 70. This film, if you look at, like, it's like
it's
like Man United managers, you know what I mean? If you look at them at the start of their tenure in like 2 seasons,
But
they
also
look
you
old
forget
as
how
shit.
quickly we don't age now. Like, you look at, who was it the other day? The guy from, is it Cheers?
Kelsey Grammer.
Kelsey Grammer. And he's like, who's 29 in this? He looks like a 50-year-old man. And this guy was born during fucking World War II. Like, insane behaviour.
So, a day after the burial, Nigel Galt, the editor, Vitaly Vinokourov, Jan Harland, and Christiane Kubrick basically are like, fuck it. I guess the show must go on.
Yeah.
And it's a hell of a job to lay on someone. It basically ends up on Leon Vitaly's lap. And apparently, like, almost years of studio resentment towards Stanley Kubrick gets
placed on him. Yeah.
Which is not a good, not great.
No.
So the studio have, like, a few notes. There's a full list in this book. It's pretty boring and pretty, like, jargony.
Yeah.
The main thing, the studio want to recolor the dream sequences, which were initially in color. Warner Brothers feels that there needs to be a separation of reality and dream, so they recolor it with that blue tint. That wasn't a Kubrick choice.
Yeah. And now, obviously, one of the biggest points of contention about this film is, well, what was Stanley's intent? What was this? And so I feel like this is why the Criterion Collection, the remastering, has been such a point of...
The thing is, again, it's just conspiracy bait, isn't it?
Yes,
Him dying. One, he told Warner Brothers it would be ready by early 1999.
Yeah.
He screened the film I don't think he would screen the film he wasn't happy with. People are like the team that worked on it are like, is this the final version Kubrick would send out? Absolutely not. Kubrick was known for tinkering.
Yeah.
Up until the last minute.
Look at fucking Kanye West.
Yeah. Oh, well, very much that is Kubrick. Kubrick would tinker with movies until they got wide release.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a common thing. But there was certain jump cuts that Kubrick had done in editing, which the studio were like, oh, just trim a couple of frames off that.
Yeah.
And this is a quote from the people who were working on the digitalization of the film. CFC is like Computer Film Company, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Paddy Easton. He said at that point, the cuts were Stanley's cuts and had been signed off. They were absolutely paranoid about doing anything that would change a single frame of his cut. Like, no one... You're touching Stanley Kubrick's last film and the studio's like, can you do this? And people are like, do we have to?
Yeah, innit?
Like, just send it out. Just send out the fucking version. That must have been.
And a studio audience is not going to care about fucking...
No, luckily, by the sounds of it, Warner Brothers were Team Stanley.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like they were. We've not got a fucking Fantastic Four.
No.
A week ago, the film was shown to executives at Warner Brothers.
I don't think you would have died if the film wasn't finished, because that would mean somebody else would finish his film, which is a disaster, which couldn't be the worst possible thing to ever happen to Stanley.
So Vivian Kubrick was supposed to do the music for it, and obviously she had, funnily enough, a bit of history with the old Scientology. Shout out Tom Cruise.
We'll get onto later.
We will get onto. And there was music to fix, there was overdubbing, and like, what do you call it, where you overdub someone?
ADR.
They needed like ADR jobs and shit done, because apparently some of the performances were pretty shit.
What?
But it was pretty much done, you know. There's documents of post-Kubrick editing notes. And again, if you just read like the shot being taken in New York by Lisa Leone is definitely required and replaces 2 shots in the existing cut. Much of the music used in the temp mix is confirmed. There's just like changes of different scores and stuff. Foley, you know, recording like just general atmosphere.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit insulting to the team who worked so hard on the film to say that this wasn't Kubrick's vision. It is Kubrick's vision. It is Kubrick's film. The differences between what was showed to the Warner Brothers execs and Cruise and Kidman was not a different expose film that Warner Brothers then decided not to
and
put
also,
out.
why would Warner Brothers...
Not at all what it was.
Yeah.
There was also meant to be voiceover. Did you know that?
Yes, I did know that, and it's for the best that they
Do you want to hear the voiceover?
Yeah, go for it, because I don't know anything about this.
This is Bill in the cab, her voiceover.
I'm being cocked and I'm sad.
During the drive to Long Island, Bill began to grow anxious. What am I doing? He asked himself. Am I mad?
Oh, no.
I should tell the driver to turn around and go back. But go where? To Domino? To Marion? Home? No, he decided. He would rather go anywhere than home. He could not turn back. He must go through with this. And it's just like...
Oh, shit.
That's conveyed by tone. And we just pick up on that. That's like what Netflix's Eyed Wide Shut would be like.
Yeah, for sure. Baby shit. Don't pander to your audience. Well, they don't need to be pandered to.
So yeah, and then the film got released and everyone was like, that's fucking boring and shit.
It's a shame. So this has a 76% Rotten Tomatoes score.
If this didn't have Kubrick's name on it, it would be about 40, I think.
7.5 on IMDb and a 4 on Letterboxd.
I mean, yeah, I think in retrospect it's become
It's definitely not. It's not like The Shining, and I know like Stephen King hates The Shining.
Yeah, Stephen King hates
blah, blah,
not
blah.
fucking children. Allegedly,
yeah, Stephen King hates not being a paedophile.
Allegedly.
But yeah, no. You look at movies like The Shining. You look at 2001. Those were like this is
fucking
this
Full
is,
Metal Jacket. Like, there's not a better people pleasing movie than Full Metal Jacket, other than for you.
Unless you're me, in which case,
I don't get it.
I always say this. I hate army things. Like. There's this.
It's not just army things. It's the army.
I don't care, but it's like that thing of like when you say you don't mind what you're watching, and then you're 3 minutes into a movie and you start hearing gunshots and yelling "go go go," and I'm like, that's my worst nightmare. But you know, in sitcoms when they always have like
the army episode,
the characters go to the army, like Lisa and Bart get shipped, and I'm like, I don't ever want to see that. Don't show me that, and don't make it a Full Metal Jacket parody while you're at it, please.
Yeah.
Thanks, Stanley.
Yeah, thanks, Stan.
This is my wheelchair. There are many like it, but this one is mine. Without me, my wheelchair is useless. Without my wheelchair, I am useless. Shut up!
Okay. that is how Eyes Wide Shut was made.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, there's so much that goes into this movie. You've done the factual. You didn't do much of like the fallout after he died because again you could just be here for hours.
The marketing alone.
Yeah, I know.
I could do another hour on.
Yeah,
and maybe I will at one point. The biggest takeaway from the marketing is that Stanley did it before he died.
Yes.
Stanley picked the trailers.
So did he
picked everything and he fucked it.
The poster of the Nicole Kidman and the Tom Cruise mask, was that? Do you know that one?
Yes.
Was that Stanley approved?
No,
because they
the
used
only
that
poster is they use it for the Blu-ray.
Yes, yeah.
But that's bullshit. Warner Brothers crap. The main poster is the purple in the mirror.
Yes, yeah.
That is the Kubrick, where it's Cruise, Kidman, Kubrick. And he chose the trailer which had like Baby Did a Bad Thing over it with like clips.
Is that Chris Isaac?
Baby Did a Bad Thing. I don't know if it's Chris Isaac.
No, I only asked that because Nicole Kidman was really into Chris Isaac. And so she would put on, like during the nude scenes and stuff, she'd like put on that album to really like help her like zone in.
People were expecting, because the marketing made it scandalous and like it was going to be the sexiest movie ever.
And you're casting husband and wife.
We're going to see fucking...
An 18.
We're going to see Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman have sex.
I'm going to see Nicole Kidman's butthole.
Yeah, being penetrated by Tom Cruise. Like,
and
then you go and see and it's just weird and boring.
Yeah,
what?
This weird meta dream world that is...
People thought it was going to be like a, I don't know, like fucking Basic Instinct with Cruise and Kidman.
Oh,
but it was fucking weird boomer shit.
Yeah,
about consequences of your actions.
Yeah, you should not have sex outside of your marriage, or else you will get HIV and get kidnapped by a sex cult and be shipped off to
Guantanamo Bay,
Oregon, or wherever he's actually from. I can't remember.
Frustrated times playing a character like that. Just get frustrated with myself and.
Baby Did a Bad Thing.
Who is that?
It's Chris Isaac.
Hey, there we go.
Baby Did a Bad Thing.
So to sort of segue around the factual, we get more into the...
For fans of Georgia Cushion, this is not... You've waited patiently for what I can only assume is an hour. No, sorry, we're wrapping this up now. Thank you. Thank you for coming to the Callum House show, where I talk about timelines.
So I sort of started off being like, I'm going to look up the conspiracy side of things. And then I was like, that's low-key boring. I watched one YouTube video with this guy who's like,
it's just painful.
I know everything about Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut. And he just launches into this tirade. And then he brings up the fact that he does like smokes weed all the time. And I'm like, of course. Like, try and not... I mean, I'm no shade because who am I?
This mansion was all built for the Rothschild, a wealthy Jewish family.
Okay, wow. We're like 3 steps away from...
Secret orgies.
Yeah.
Yes, the fucking point of the movie.
I too have seen the movie, actually.
Wow, if you read between the lines of this movie, there's actually a sex party with the elite.
Did you know?
Whoa, mind fucking blown.
There's honestly not as much pedophilia in this as I... remember / expected. There is some.
The implication of Milchick's daughter is the gross one.
That's very, very upsetting.
You were going to call the police.
Well, things change. We have come to another arrangement. And by the way, if the good doctor himself should ever want anything again, anything at all, it needn't be a costume.
So I basically split it into the main themes of the movie. You've got rainbows, cults, and Christmas.
Yes.
Some of these immediately might not seem like they are related, but this is sort of the best way I could think to group them. Marriage, fidelity, and duality, eyes, mirrors, and reflections, and lastly, time, class, and capitalism.
Oh man, those are big words. If you can hear that rustling, Georgia's got printed out paper because she's a boomer.
I can't read off my... I think I have dyslexia.
Ladies, where exactly are we going? Exactly.
Where the rainbow ends.
So to start off, rainbows, cults, and Christmas, I feel, is the most visually obvious motif that you have.
For sure, even if you're watching it and you're clinically
So it's set at Christmas time. It starts off like a couple of days before Christmas Eve, right?
I think it starts on the 23rd, no?
The timeline is a bit weird, and it sort of does convey that pre-Christmas limbo quite well. Yeah, there's obviously visually so many Christmas lights and stuff, but I think
they're gorgeous in that criteria.
Oh, don't.
They're not all blown out and shit.
Rainbows are obviously visually in the movie, but there's some more implicit stuff as well.
So rainbows, you've got the rainbow fashions, and then under the rainbow is the brothel.
Yeah, so you've got like Rainbow Fashions is the shop that's owned by Mr. Milich, and basically Rainbow Fashions is the costume shop where he gets the robes that he needs for the party. And this is basically
something not a bit more colourful for the good doctor.
This is basically his key, his entry pass alongside the password into this underground world that he should be a part of. And at the start, the party that the Zieglers throw, there's the two models. Again, why two models? I'm not a Tom Cruise stan, but why two beautiful women would ever be interested in Tom Cruise is just...
Because they saw him in The Outsiders.
He's fucking terrible in that movie. And the models basically, when they're walking like arm in arm down the thing,
follow the yellow brick road.
We'll take you to where the rainbow ends.
Yeah.
And like in pop culture, obviously rainbows are typically A, gay, and B, on the other end of a rainbow is a pot of gold.
Yeah.
Like typically in,
for sure.
It
leads somewhere crazy.
And this is obviously an important link to the themes of capitalism and wealth and this idea that a pot of gold is ever unattainable. Like when you get to the other side, no one ever gets to the end of the rainbow. But when you do get there, you'll have wealth, you'll have gold, you'll have
none
riches.
of the elites seem to be having that good a time. They're just all sort of just milling about.
And this is what I said to you at the orgy. Like, no one seems to be enjoying it.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, like
this pussy's so good. They're just like solemnly fucking.
Yeah, innit? Like, no one's like spunking in their pants. I mean, I've never been to an elite sex orgy, so I don't really know what the etiquette
Tom Cruise
is.
is shitting his pants. Come forward.
Orgy.
What is the password? Orgy. You may enter.
Continuing on the theme of the rainbow, shout out Marvel, the Rainbow Bridge. It's a rich cultural theme that a rainbow is sort of seen as a bridge between like mundanity, like the real world and real life, and like this other secret world. It's an important idea in a variety of different cultures. Like the Navajo have ideas about rainbow bridges and things like that, and so do like Nordic traditions. Obviously there is, I'm trying to think what they call it in the Marvel movies.
Rainbow Road.
Yeah, it's Super Mario Brothers, all equally rich in cultural heritage. But yeah.
And also the Lucky Charms mascot, he's got a rainbow.
Exactly. Rainbows.
Charms, mysticism. I think we're unlocking things here.
I think so. This big brain shit. But yeah, so rainbows are seen as a symbol of wealth, prosperity, gayness. There's just really a theme in this, but
homosexuality, if you will.
But obviously Rainbow Fashions is his key to obtaining this other world and getting there. And we find out that he never does quite get there because he's sort of outed almost immediately.
And you should just get the cloak lined with Irvine.
Ermine.
Why not?
The most conspiratorial of all the points is that Scientology is obviously a massive part of this movie. Was Tom Cruise outwardly a Scientologist at this point?
Yeah.
He was.
Yeah.
And Vivian Kubrick had her own relationship with Scientology, but did you know that L. Ron Hubbard's super secret base, where they do like the final stages of like going clear, that's like one of the torture bases or whatever, allegedly was known colloquially as Over the Rainbow.
I did not know that.
Yeah, well, there you go. See,
because they call it the bridge.
Yeah,
the bridge to freedom.
Right. Okay. Well, there you go.
Yes.
Right. This is what I mean. And even more interestingly, L. Ron Hubbard was actually a disciple of Aleister Crowley, who was a Mason, and Freemasonry is another theme of this movie.
I did not know that about Hubbard.
Well, there you go.
I know
Crowley
everything
reference.
about Hubbard, but I didn't know that he was
clearly
a
you
disciple
fucking
of
don't.
Crowley. Not Crowley from Supernatural, not the King of the Crossroads.
But yeah, so obviously I don't know much about Freemasonry. The only experience I have was when I was a waitress. We used to wait, and it was fucking. I used to like wait tables for Freemasons.
Really?
Yeah, they were fucking weird.
We
all,
do.
In it,
We
all
do.
middle-aged white guys, and you're like, are you going to molest me? Because I'm a little bit concerned.
Who robbed Skatefish of their sight? Who rigged every Oscar night? We do.
Cult Christmas vibes sort of compound and rainbow. You've got all of the like incandescent, like those multicolored bulbs, which I've been on a hunt to find an LED version of, because the reason that those bulbs have been like banned in the UK is because they cause so many like house fires and shit. I'm sure America still have them, but
No, I think it's a
worldwide thing.
No, it was a Biden thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I think people. I know.
Taking away our freedom.
One of the last Red Scare episodes I listened to, they were talking about bulbs that Biden have banned.
Biden banning bulbs.
And they wanted like Trump to bring back like these bulbs because they have a nicer light.
Which they do.
Which they do.
It's subjective fact, but equally, do you want your house to be burnt down? Yes or no?
Or do you want to have goy lights like us?
So in basically every single shot that's not at the Somerton Manor, you will notice there are some forms of Christmas trees, Christmas lights, wreaths, either shown sort of directly, or you get that nice warm glow of just the lights. And a lot of the hospital has them, Domino's apartment has them.
On stage at the Sonata Cafe, there's a Christmas tree.
The Sonata Cafe, you've got the
Rainbow Fashions, there's a Christmas tree, and like
yeah,
Merry
again,
Christmas on the wall.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
Once you, obviously you do notice it, but once you sort of lock into it, it's in basically every single shot. And that's the cool contrast between the manor, where this timeless, weird, society-less place that doesn't conform to, you know.
For sure. Why would they concern themselves with the idleness?
Well, I don't know. They're super into weird sex freak stuff. So one of the most important things you'll see is the 8-pointed star, which is known as like the Star of Venus.
Ziegler's apartment, right?
In the Ziegler mansion. It kind of stands out because the rest of the decorations are very colourful, whereas this is like a black,
And
or maybe it's dark
almost
green.
centre frame from the first time you see the Ziegler's apartment and Alice and Dr. Ben or whatever. What's his name? Bill and Ben. They walk in and it's sort of centre frame.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
It's hard
And
to miss.
according to sort of pagan tradition, the Star of Venus represents lust and sexuality. So it's
nice.
that kind of. And again, Christmas is inherently a pagan tradition. Obviously, it got adopted. But
Shout out the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Hell yeah. And in pagan tradition, Christmas trees and wreaths are another thing that are typically viewed to represent fertility.
Every motherfucking thing's about fertility.
Well,
isn't it?
exactly. But like I found this out. Again, this is where I started going down the rabbit hole, and I was like, guys, you're veering. I am. And I was like, you guys are veering a little bit into craziness. Like, you know, like a Christmas wreath is like the bows tradition, the red bows tradition on the bottom. That's meant to represent like period, like blood and and a Christmas tree is like obviously pointed,
like
and that's meant to represent a penis. And again, all of these things, I was like, okay,
that explains why I get so turned on at Christmas
and I was
time.
like, okay, you're losing me a little bit, but
well, I feel much better about putting the tree up my arse now.
oh yeah, all of that being said, Christmas is pagan in its traditional roots.
Read your book.
It has also become the ultimate capitalist holiday.
Yes.
And it's not just a seasonal setting. In the Trauma Novelle, I can't remember.
Trauma
Novelle. It was originally Mardi Gras.
Oh, interesting.
So when they transposed it from Vienna to New York, they also transposed the holiday. And that's why you've got like the Venetian masks. So there's a lot of references indirectly to Venetian like culture. And I'm guessing the Venetian mask was meant to like serve as a representation of that original adaptation.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's cool.
But yeah, obviously Christmas, although it provides all of that other thing, I think the biggest thing is the capitalist side of it. And like it is a holiday entirely. Yes, it's about celebration and sharing and family and all of those things, but it's not really.
It's about families.
It's about American
families.
culture. Yeah, exactly. It's Macy's. That's what Christmas is.
He's a pig.
I hope Santa Claus gets me one of these for Christmas.
You do?
And then you also sort of have, moving a bit more onto like the character side of things, you've got marriage, fidelity, and duality. So like,
this is the linchpin of the movie, no?
yes, absolutely. And also having a couple in real life whose own marriage was dissolving at this time, I think. I don't think it was pretty long after that they split up, right? I don't know
I'm
if
not
you...
sure, actually.
But anyway, if you think about those themes, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Marriage, fidelity, and...
duality. There's one thing that I immediately was like, oh, this
Fidelio?
is... Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
What is this?
It's the name of a Beethoven opera, isn't it?
So Fidelio is the password, which Nick obviously gives him. He says in the movie that it's a reference to Beethoven's opera. Do you know anything about Fidelio, the opera? I don't know why you would, but...
No.
Yes, I knew all about this actually before I looked it up on
course.
Google. Essentially in the story, the only relevant part is that a wife disguises herself as a man called Fidelio to save her husband, who's been wrongfully imprisoned in like a political campaign or something.
Very similar to the American Dad episode where Francine dresses up as a man to get into Stan's club.
Well, and has the fart.
Yeah.
Very, very similar.
Maybe that's what that was.
Yeah, the main connotation of the word outside of the Beethoven reference is obviously fidelis is faithfulness,
Yes.
to be faithful. And it seems like there are many attempts between Bill and Alice to communicate, but largely this just ends up in them failing to understand each other on a fundamental level.
I'll tell you what I do know is you got a little stoned tonight, you've been trying to pick a fight with me, and now you're trying to make me jealous.
But you're not the jealous type, are you?
No, I'm not.
One of my favourite things on that point is the pot confessional scene.
Yeah. I don't really know how I feel about that scene, I will say.
It's odd. But her buckled over laughing, looking up, getting a glimpse of Tom Cruise looking confused, and then going back to laughing,
Just
like pointing at
rage-baiting
him.
him.
She like looks at him, points at him, and then breaks out laughing. And it's like, oh, I'd lose it. I'd lose my goddamn mind.
Honestly, I'm team...
This woman tells you how she'd leave you for this naval officer and then can't look at you without laughing.
Yeah, literally. Like,
This part is making you aggressive.
I'm always supporting women's rights and women's wrongs, but if my partner said that in front of me, I think I would lose it. I think I would
Do you
go
when
on
she
a...
started laughing and pointing at you?
Yeah, innit? Like, she absolutely annihilates him. But it's his own fault.
It is his own fault.
And this is what I mean. You get such a specific vibe from him that he just doesn't understand women. He doesn't understand female sexuality. And that-
Only you men knew.
yeah, exactly. And he brings this upon himself by his stupidity. But like, even during the pot scene, his excuse for not wanting to fuck the models, which obviously he did want to.
Yeah, for
Let's
sure.
not pretend.
Let's not pretend he wasn't
She wanted to
flirting
fuck
with
Sal's... What's that guy's name?
Oh, yeah, the Hungarian.
Yeah. She wanted to fuck him. He wanted to fuck both of those models. But his excuse for not wanting to was that I'm in love with you and we're married and I would never lie to you. But literally like a couple of lines before, she was like, where did you go at Ziegler's party? And he was like, oh, Ziegler was ill, so I had to go upstairs and help him. It's like, you just lied.
Yeah.
So it's like you're repeating this cycle of infidelity no matter when you start engaging with these people and their entire life is based on lying and
for sure.
falsehood and you get caught up in this. And yeah, like the pot scene is particularly revealing in terms of the way that he thinks and the way that his brain works because it's a rather antiquated view on female sexuality.
Women don't. They basically just don't think like that.
Millions of years of evolution. Right? Right? Men have to stick it in every place they can, but for women it is just about security and commitment and whatever the fuck else.
The argument is perfect, I think, in terms of we're to be married couple.
Yeah.
From the male perspective, that sort of naivety is bred into men.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That,
And this is
women
why-
are just, they evolve to, we're the hunter-gatherers,
Yes.
we're the seed spreaders.
Uh-huh.
Women are content staying at home, women are in it for love, not sex.
We're cum dumpsters merely
Yeah,
for the
but-
men to...
And men don't have an emotional feeling about sex the same way women do.
Yeah.
Like,
when I
it's
said
just
the baby
false.
girl comparison, I say it tongue in cheek, but I mean it.
Yeah,
It's that idea of women not fitting into your narrative of faithfulness and fitting into your narrative of, well, they only want sex from me.
Yeah.
They only, and it's just not true. Like, this woman was prepared to give up her child
For a shag.
for a shag.
Yeah.
And like, yes, that is inherently very problematic. She didn't act, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
These are thoughts, these are desires, these are things we keep secret for a reason because no one is entitled to be privy to your innermost thoughts because the reason that humans process and the reason that humans are as complex as they are is because there are some things that we keep private because we don't share them. But his arrogance made her confess this because she was like, fuck you. You think you know everything about me and you don't even have a clue.
And why haven't you ever been jealous about me?
Well, I don't know, Alice. Maybe because you're my wife. Maybe because you're the mother of my child. And I know you would never be unfaithful to me.
You are very sure of yourself, aren't you?
That secrecy element is really played up, I think, by Kubrick in the production as well. Because I don't know if you know this, but they were kept for scenes that weren't shot together. So, for instance, the orgy scene, Nicole Kidman had no idea about what went on. Same with the dream sex scenes and stuff.
Oh, nice, okay. That's super interesting.
Really far apart from set to breed this feeling of jealousy and animosity between them.
That makes sense.
Also, a lot of their clothes on set were real clothes, real trinkets.
Yes, I did know
they
that.
slept on set a few times and things like that, just to breed the intimacy that Kubrick wanted.
I think that the main sort of point, to go back to the pot scene, was that Alice is upset by the fact that he's not jealous of her because of the assumption that, well, she's a mother, she's a wife, she would never do these things. And it's like, your assumption is that once a woman gets married, once a woman has a child, she's like indebted to you on this level that you can't understand.
Yeah, for sure.
The assumption there is his assumption, which is just wrong. She is on the attack because he obviously wanted to fuck the models. You know what I mean? It makes sense. One of the sort of most important themes of the movie, and you mentioned it earlier when we were watching, you were like, oh, did you notice that Tom Cruise will just sort of repeat what the person said back to him?
I'm just trying to find out where you're coming from.
Where I'm coming from.
Okay, so after you tell her that everything's fine, what then?
What then?
Yeah, he does that a lot.
And it wasn't honestly something that I picked up on, and then you said that and I was like, hey, like that does ring a bell. There's a lot of circular motion to the movie, but like immediately after the pot scene, he gets interrupted and takes the phone call from the Nathansons and go over there, and Marion,
the daughter
of the guy who's died, in her sort of post-grief craziness, I guess, is like, I love you to Bill, and is like, I would ditch my life for you, let's run away together, I'm just about to get married, I don't want to do that, let's go. And he was like, we barely know each other. We've had a conversation about your dad and that's it. She has exactly the same haircut and she is willing to give up her entire marriage for this guy who she doesn't know anything about. He then later tries to like give her a call, like when he sort of is on the decline of his odyssey, he gives her a call and Carl, her partner, answers the phone and he just doesn't say anything. And so he's judging Alice for doing all of these things, and yet
immediately he just seeks this instant validation.
Exactly, immediately goes into this scenario, and then when things go tits up, he is like, oh wait, let me get on that. And again goes back to sleep with Domino and then doesn't because she's got HIV. And I guess Marion, Alice, and Mandy, women are very much accessories to pleasure in the movie. They are vehicles for men to receive gratification and
for sure, even down to the orgy, like it's just all maskless at the servitude of men.
Yes, and there are a few, so like Ziegler's wife is there, or what you assume is his wife anyway, it may not be.
The orgy?
Yeah,
I think
so
that's a lover.
Do you think? I just wonder, because you know at the balcony scene where he nods down to him, I assume that was his wife. Honestly, it might not be. But he ends up with another one of the masked women anyway.
Oh, well, that's what I'm confusing myself
Yeah,
with.
so
I was like, his wife did not have that bang in her body.
No, exactly not. Alice is a disruptor to this because she becomes, or at least internally, so active, and like she becomes active in seeking out pleasure and talking about this innate desire that women have, and this just absolutely fucks Bill up and basically sends him on his pedowood odyssey. And obviously the movie starts with, like you said, Alice undressing, but then you see her in contrast in those scenes where she's got her glasses on and her hair's up and she's like taking care of Helena and stuff, and it's that dichotomy between like the functional side of Alice, and she looks cute but she doesn't she just looks like a regular person going about her day, you know what I mean?
Well, as regular as Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Nicole Kidman's a fucking smoke show. And the last point sort of on this topic is obviously to go back to the, again, all points lead to the orgy scene.
Yeah.
The masks sort of show, well, masks are duality.
Duplicitous.
You know, duplicitous.
Duplicitous.
That means something else. You get the point.
Yes, they're two things.
Yes, exactly. And they show the inherent performance of life. Like, everyone is performing in some way or another. Bill is performing being a doctor. Like, Alice is performing being a wife and mother and a failed art critic. Like, we are all performing it to some extent.
Well, we all wear masks, metaphorically speaking.
Yes, exactly.
From the
And
Mask,
this is a
starring Jim
tale.
Carrey.
Again, this is a tale as old as time. This is not a new concept to say that, you know, people wear masks. But Bill in the film is essentially impotent. He doesn't sleep with Domino. He doesn't sleep with a child, which fair, like, props to him.
Good for him.
He's dream cucked by his wife, and then is outed as an outsider at the orgy where they're like, take off your mask, take off your clothes. Like, he's reduced to that level of submission, and like even his attempts at infidelity like all fail. Like, he doesn't sleep with Domino's roommate because she's like, by the way, she has HIV, and that sort of kills the mood a little bit, which, like, fair.
I don't quite know how to say this.
You don't quite know how.
She got the results of a blood test this morning, and it was HIV positive.
But yeah, this sort of segues nicely into the eyes, mirrors, and reflections side of things. So all very similar themes, but in many of Kubrick's films, and again, you know his movies better than I do, so you might have some insight in this, but you quite often find characters, or the main character has sort of side characters that are like reflections of themselves. So, for example, like in this case, Ziegler is like Bill's fully evil version of him, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And these people have someone around them that sort of guide them into that. Yeah, I mean, Victor Ziegler is everything that Bill wants to be but can't quite be.
Jewish.
Yeah, quite. And at the party, Sandor, the guy that Alice dances with, echoes a quote from Dorian Gray, and he says, the one charm of marriage is that it makes a life of deception absolutely necessary for both parties. So that theme of infidelity is hammered in immediately.
It goes hand in hand with marriage.
And Dorian Gray is obviously another story that has mirrors and reflections and social perception and like performance as an art as like an integral theme. So it's not necessarily, you know, I don't know if that was a direct reference in as many words, but it does ring true. And there are obviously many other references to art and, you know, other things in the film. Like if you look in the background of any of the scenes, art is really not my forte. I don't. But if you look at a lot of the paintings in like not the Sonata Cafe, the other cafes that he goes to, and you'll see like on the wall that I know one of them is like Ophelia, and again, this stuff can be broken down really far, but this isn't my forte.
And that is where you get into like true
rabbit hole.
Kubrickian rabbit hole.
Yes, exactly.
Where like everything means something. Everything is as important as
for sure.
anything else in the shot.
But yeah, this is way out of my remit, so I will leave that to people.
And also, we don't have 12 hours to go through Eyes Wide Shut frame by frame.
Yes, exactly. And
did you know that the fucking wallpaper here is a reference to fucking...
And again,
Truffaut?
how much of Kubrick is intentional, how much of it isn't, how much of it is purely happenstance, how much of it is continuity errors, and that's the beauty of Kubrick, no one knows.
It is. And Kubrick did himself a favour by being so intentional, because now...
people are doing this forever.
Kubrick made a mistake?
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. He was so intentional.
Yeah.
It's like, everyone makes mistakes, bro.
There's a pile of suitcases, and in the dissolve into that scene, the scene before, a group of tourists are standing in the lobby, and those tourists dissolve into the suitcases. Now, as an historian of the Holocaust, I find that very, very striking.
Speaking of sort of Kubrick staples, you do get a nice little Kubrick stare from Alice, and as all Kubrick stares, but she looks into and through the camera almost like she's like looking into the audience. And the poster is obviously like Nicole Kidman, or the one poster we were talking about, the main one. It's framed in a mirror, but she's also looking to the audience. So there's like, you're looking at a mirror image of her looking at you. And again, this plays well into like, we live dual lives. We all have secrets. We all hide. Alice has secrets. Bill has secrets. Ziegler has secrets. Mandy has secrets. All of these people are lying to themselves, to others, for capitalist ends, for survival ends, for
fucking ends,
much eviler ends, like, and the organization as an institution seems to be omnipresent. It seems to know where Bill is, what he's doing, because he's being stalked. Like, once the orgy scene is over, we later discover that Ziegler hires a goon who also happens to be dressed the same as Nicole Kidman. Again, this is what I mean. There's never ending. But yeah, and they always seem to be, the note that they give him is like, you're fucking with something that you don't understand.
Yes, fuck off.
Yeah.
Again, going back the next day is brazy to me.
Yeah,
it's
I
a
know.
brazy move.
And like, there's many references in the script to like being able to look and see things. And like we were saying, in the doctor's office, there's loads of posters on the wall that are like, again, all things you would find in a doctor's office, but when you look at it through this lens. And obviously you mentioned that the 70-20-70, that's a really interesting, and it helps in terms of pacing.
Yeah.
And feels like...
Well, it's the other side of the rainbow, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. You reach the apex and then you've got to fall down. What's left at the end of the rainbow is Alice says to, as like the closing lines, I can't remember exactly how it's phrased.
We've got to do something as quickly as possible.
Yeah,
fuck.
And that is the movie. That is the essence of the movie. When you
boil it down, and this is what that bookend to the film for me is... the punchline.
Yes.
And it is almost...
to go through all of this and your outcome is that you need to have sex more.
You need to have sex with your wife.
Yeah.
And stop being a fucking idiot.
Yeah, okay.
And you know, there is something very important that we need to do as soon as possible.
What's that?
Fuck.
And because there is theories that their daughter gets kidnapped at the end, right?
Yeah, I don't
buy it.
I don't buy that. Because apparently the guys in the suits, which honestly, when I was rewatching, I tried to look out for, and I just couldn't.
No, I can't.
I couldn't see it. But again, this is all, it's interpretation. And I think the final point on this is that what puts an interesting twist on the themes of like mirror's image and that kind of vibe is that the non-location shooting sort of adds a meta element to that, because for the most part, the entire construction is falsehood, because it's recreation of what you could easily find in New York City, and it's been shipped to this foreign location where it doesn't quite...
all the bins, all the
exactly
rubbish.
Every single element of the frame has to be recontextualized in order to make it believable, because it is not New York.
Yes, and also they used that backlot apparently so many times that by the end they were just like, we cannot keep redressing this backlot.
Yeah, exactly.
We cannot keep doing it.
Yeah.
It looks bad. We're out of ideas. And that's why they shot the stalking scene in real life, because they were like, we can't do it. But also, I think there was a case of like Overlook hotelism about the set that Stanley liked. This kind of mazy repetition of corners, going around corners to reveal new corners that don't make sense.
Again,
and things like that.
One of the most interesting conspiracy theories I think about The Shining is the Overlook Hotel. Like,
see, for me, that's not even that is fact.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
It's more
not conspiracy, but I just mean it's an interesting point that people go into when you talk about
the mapping of the Overlook doesn't make sense, which it shouldn't. It's the Overlook Hotel.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that this is sort of an interesting twist on that,
I agree.
When you take the themes of the movie and that recontextualizing something in an environment where it doesn't quite work and it is inherently false really sort of adds to that. And I think the final one I had that is probably the biggest, you've got time, class and capitalism. Although Bill is what you and I would consider to be the elite, within this scenario, he is leagues below these people. He has no idea what actually goes on.
He's the nouveau riche.
Yes, exactly. These people play with life and death with seemingly no consequences. I'm sure there are consequences, we just don't see them. But
or if there are consequences, they escape them.
Yes, exactly. And this is what I mean. Like, I believe that they lie about Nick. He's dead. And the same thing with Mandy. Well, she died. His excuse is, well, she was a druggie. She was a whore. She died from an overdose. And it's like the day after. Like, no. But you see it in the paper and you see it like tragic beauty queen dies in hotel OD. And you're like, bro, how many of these things go on?
That whole play-acted, take-me, phony sacrifice that you've been jerking yourself off with had absolutely nothing to do with her real death. Nothing happened to her after you left that party that hadn't happened to her before. She got her brains fucked out. Period.
The biggest takeaway that I had the first time I watched the movie was just like, the most frightening thing about the entire movie is that this stuff happens.
Yeah.
This shit happens.
It's not, and for sure.
And that's not a stretch of the imagination to say that.
I don't think Kubrick was trying to secretly tell you that.
No, exactly.
I think it was, again, it's the text of the movie.
I think it escapes and Eclipse is just being like, bro, did you know that the elite, that I think it's shown with a level of taste and discernment that I think you don't get that. We're not talking about fucking the scary of 61st. Do you know what I mean? Like this is a depiction of
that film's much better than
quite.
The acting's better and everything.
And like Bill has this level of wealth that allows him to sort of peek behind the curtain.
It gets him into rooms that he wouldn't necessarily be in.
Exactly. And we see him frivolously spending money in the quest for pussy. Like, he offers
he gets
Milich 200 over the asking price for the suit,
costume rental.
and then he pays the taxi driver, like, at least 100. I know it is Christmas, so he's tipping generously, but no.
He pays Domino $150 to not do anything.
Despite never sleeping with her. And yeah, like we said before about the mask and stuff, Bill's unmasking is his final humiliation. Like, this is him being stripped of any sense of playing along with this game. Like, you are out-leagued. You have been ranked. Bill is ostensibly like the top of the top until you go to the actual top, and then you realise that this guy's fucked. Like, he thinks he can play this game just because Ziegler invites him there so that he can check on his ODing bitches. You know what I mean? Like, you are a convenience to these people. And like, he fixed Ziegler's shoulder and like things like this. They are using him for their own capitalistic gains in terms of like, I have a doctor, he can sort out any of my health problems and he will be at my beck and call no matter what. And the same thing with the Nathansons, like, he drops everything to go and see these patients, and like,
he's not one of them.
No, exactly. And you see this sort of disparity. You have like Domino is a victim of poverty. Like, you look at her house and the discussion on sex work is a completely different topic that we don't really have time to go into, but she's basically stripped of her ability to contribute to capitalism, i.e. to exist. When she finds out that she has HIV, like, she's done. She's out of the movie because she can no longer contribute to capitalism. Like, obviously in this scenario that's not the reason, but essentially that's what it is, you know? Like, as soon as she can't contribute to this society, she's out. She's done. She has no ability to sell the sex that she possesses, and as we said before, like, women exist in this movie to provide sex. Their wives or their mothers or their whores or their secretaries.
Excuse me.
Hi. How can I help you?
Can you please ring Mr. Nightingale's room for me? Nick Nightingale.
I'm sorry, sir. Mr. Nightingale has already checked out.
You checked out?
Yes.
And obviously you've got Nick as well, who sort of falls, I'd say, in the middle of this grading scale. He's got 4 kids. Like, he's got a wife.
In Seattle.
Seattle, that's it. And he's living far away from his family, just trying to make ends meet. And
he follows the work.
Yes, exactly. And the blindfold is his. And he's wearing like a white suit as well, which puts him like visually at odds with everyone else. And he is the outlier. And then Ziegler's like, that little prick. And it's like, I mean, yeah, he did out your creepy sex party, but other than that, I don't think he really did anything particularly wrong, especially not worthy of being killed for. Well, so these people, obviously. And my last point, I guess, on the topic of capitalism is that the film opens with like the dialogue is like, honey, have you seen my wallet? And then this centers currency as the main narrative focus, like, from the get-go. And like, to sort of round this off with like time as well, when like Bill and Marion are having the discussion, you can like audibly hear like the clock ticking, and you get the sense that everyone is kind of running out of time. And this is what I mean by like the Christmas thing. It lives in that nebulous like world where no one really knows like what day of the week it is, when it is, and you get this really weird like spatial paralysis. And especially like with the recreation of like New York and stuff, there's just that weird vibe. And I guess this is the ethos of the movie, is that people only have a limited time to engage with capitalism, and people only have a limited time to live before their time runs out. And like, the point of the movie, I guess, is like, where does the line between reality and fiction end? Where does the line, and you can say this with any of the themes, like, where does this theme stop and the movie just start? You know what I mean?
For sure. The blurring between like reality and dreamlike situations is the main motif of it, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I didn't really cover that as a theme because it's not...
No, but I think it reflects in the lighting.
Yes.
Which is based on like Klimt and stuff.
Yeah, and it's like the dreamlike sense of what's going on, and it all feels like something that you shouldn't really be seeing, but you kind of are. And it reminds me of, you know, when you sort of like wake up from a sleep and you're half conscious and you know what's going on, but everything is just sort of a bit hazy and like...
And I think that plays into the acting as well, where people don't like the acting, and the acting was completely intentional.
Yes.
Because Sidney Pollack really struggled with it, apparently.
Yeah.
Because Kubrick wanted it super, like, broad.
It seems like everyone's like Xanadu.
Theatrical.
It's very,
And yeah, Nicole Kidman said that he wasn't interested in naturalistic acting as he was in something that, for whatever reason, piqued his interest.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And there was Todd Field, who plays Nick Nightingale, also said he wanted things to have the same kind of intensity he grew up with, watching, like, classic studio movies.
That makes sense.
Which, when I said it's like boomerism.
Yes, yeah.
Like, naturalistic acting is a thing. We look at Kubrick, naturalistic acting has never been his thing.
No.
And I think the 90s played so hard into, like, you know, naturalism and...
Yeah, and I think we went from the 80s, which was like gaudy and excessive and crazy, and like especially the sort of boom in New York and a lot of America, which was like gaudiness and like Trumpism, you know, like that. And then we went to the 90s and it was more like grunge focus, and people were dressing like more casually, and there was
like,
definitely...
office culture
Yes,
became
yeah.
a big thing.
And it's obviously 99, it's hard to say because of the long timeline, but like that pre-millennium, like it feels like something is sort of shifting a bit. And this movie, it's so weird that it comes out in the 90s because it feels so of its time and yet timeless as well. It's bizarre. And
but I think about that about all Kubrick.
Yes, yeah.
Like all of it, it's timeless.
Why does something stay with you for so many years? Why do the tracking shots and Paths of Glory stay with you? It's really a person with a very strong, powerful storytelling ability, talent, genius, who could create a solid rock image that has conviction.
Those are very interesting points you raised.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your timeline. I enjoyed that.
I've just got one little thing to end on, which is the release.
Yeah.
Critics didn't love it.
No.
I think it was just more of a letdown for everyone.
I think the main thing is that mismarketing a movie will kill you.
People thought they were going to see something scandalous.
Yes.
Washington
Which
Post,
they were.
Washington Post called it the dirtiest movie of 1958.
Honestly, this coming from me and me being like, I was fine with how unsexy it is. That's, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It got censored in Japan because there was pubic hair and the actors weren't 13 years old. Got banned in India, Malaysia, some of them.
No gay people, so it's fine in China.
There is gay people.
Oh, what, the gay couple at the
orgy? I don't think this
orgy?
got a release in China, though. Something tells me this did not get a release in China in 1999.
Oh, there's no black people or gay people, so it's fine.
Yeah. No, shout out Xi Jinping. That was Xi thought.
I'm just talking about their movie distribution exclusively.
Yes. So you're going to watch Eyes Wide Shut again this Christmas? In
Do you know
12
what?
months' time?
Oh,
I think we should give it a break.
I think we'll give it a break. I've seen it more in the last... I really enjoyed this movie, and I've grown to love it the more I learn about it. And having rewatched, we didn't watch all of them, but we watched Lolita, which I hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
I'd only seen the Jeremy Irons one, and I fucking hate that movie so much. But it's always fun to see him growing and doing different things, and like the different stages he was at with his career, and this feels like a send-off.
I think so, and I think this is genuinely, by the sounds of it, people think the impression they got after those first two screenings, which I know were like a week before he died, but the general vibe is that he was very, very proud of this film.
Yeah, and
this is the film that, again, I hate, after reading about it, this idea that
Yeah.
this wasn't Kubrick's film,
Yeah.
and that Kubrick died before. No, Kubrick, they were
Yes.
screening the fucking film for Warner Brothers and the actors.
Yeah.
And it was the film that, for all intents and purposes, ended up on the screen.
Well, that makes me happy to hear that he was pleased and proud of it. Like, you hear about people putting all this time and all this effort. Look at Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
Diamonds are made under pressure.
Yes,
and this
for
is
sure.
something that if the final product, if the actors can hold their hands up and say, if the director can hold his hands up and say it was worth it, at the end of the day, that's what matters. And like in this movie, it was worth it. Like, do you need to film Tom Cruise coming out of a door 400 times? You don't. However, Noah Schnapp also does not need to film a coming out scene for 12 hours with 12 hours of reshoots. So like, I'll take it.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll take it from Stanley Kubrick, I think.
What would you like for Christmas, Stanley?
A fortune computer.
Why do you want a fortune?
Because it has the best Ship architecture.
And I'm going to end on this quote from Abigail Good, the actress. He said that Stanley was completely respectful. He was an absolute gentleman. And there was no feelings of awkwardness walking around naked.
Yeah.
And I think for someone to make this movie and for people to come away being like, oh no, he's safe.
Yeah.
Fine. One of the best, like...
In Hollywood, I'll take it.
Yeah. Mike Goat, Stanley Kubrick, rest in peace. Shout out.
Thanks for your lifelong contribution.
Leon Vitali as well. Because I think that man deserves a pat on the back that he probably never got. Because it's Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut, and that man seems to take hell post-death. Well, even pre-death. Like, that man was working his arse off. And shout him out. I love Eyes Wide Shut. I love Stanley Kubrick. I love this podcast.
Hell yeah. We don't know what we're going to do next, but we've got a lot of fun ideas.
Yeah, we've got loads of fun ideas.
And you know what? It'll probably be our 2025 review, because I feel like, well, we had such a long break from the podcast, there's probably quite a lot of things that we haven't talked about that we liked, and I really enjoyed doing our episode last year. I like ranking things, so I think we'll do that.
Cool. Thank you for sticking around. This has been a 2-hour raw record, so hopefully we can edit that in no time at all and get it out to you. Thank you so much, everyone.
Merry Christmas,
Happy New Year.
2026 will be full of prosperity. I'm
envisioning it for all of our listeners. Prosperity, luck, health.
And happiness. We've been Idle Film Club. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
See you later. Ta-ra.
I don't like movies.
Get real.
I saw that movie 20 goddamn times!
Just I want my movie.
Oh, this movie's too complicated.
So once again, no smoking, just theater.